Sure, David. Thanks for the introduction. People can get a hold of me by finding me on Instagram or Facebook, Ryan Duffy, or on Instagram, Ryan.Duffy27. And you can find me on my SoundCloud, Ryan Duffy, London, Ontario, and my website, Ryan Duffy Composer, through Wix. You can find a variety of scores and pieces that I've written on there. Sure, that's a good question. Well, first off, I don't like pigeonholing myself into any one category because I guess every piece is different, and so categorizing certain things as kind of puts it in a box that can be restrictive. But I think my influences tend to lean to the more late Romantic era, big, rich orchestrations, late 1800s, and into the 20th century is also what I tend to enjoy. Well, like I mentioned, that late Romantic music is pretty enjoyable. As a horn player, lots of composers from that era wrote great parts for the horn, like Richard Strauss or Mahler, these sweeping horn lines, and that's something I greatly enjoy. I also like classic rock, uh, some musical theater, a variety. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously, I'd like to try and work more into the composing world, music industry. What exactly that will look like after my undergraduate, I'm not sure. I've been investigating some different opportunities. I've been looking at master's applications to a variety of schools and was also looking maybe at some publishing companies and the job opportunities they have in like arranging that sort of thing. Mhm. Mhm. Sure. Well, technology is a big one. Like social media, just using different venues like SoundCloud, websites, that sort of thing to promote yourself. And also something I found, composing competitions. There are plenty of websites out there that offer composing competitions where you can enter pieces, sometimes with certain instrumentation, and you can enter them. And like anything, the more you try, uh, the better you may get at it. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. On that topic, that reminds me, something I made sure to do on my website so people wouldn't steal my scores. I only put the first page of the score on, little preview, I called it, so that they could look at it and see part of it, but not the entire thing. Yeah, I think that's the idea. Yeah, they can find my composer email, ryanduffycomposer@gmail.com, on the contact page. That's a good question. Hmm. Yeah. I think uh for me, I think I try to write pieces that uh are accessible, but still have compositional merit to them. And also, something I enjoy is program music, which is a sort of music that represents a story or a narrative. I wrote a piece last year about Orwell's 1984. So, anyone potentially familiar with the book, like I read the book to help me write the piece, could maybe possibly follow the narrative through music. Mm. Yes, I started on piano in grade two at my elementary school. There's a piano teacher there, and yeah, took lessons there. And I've done my grade eight RCM practical and theory. I did that in preparation for university when I knew I wanted to pursue music. But piano is not my main instrument. That is actually French horn, which I was assigned in grade nine because I told the music teacher I had piano experience. I believe my music teacher said it would help with the transposing, transposing the instrument down a fifth easier. I'm not sure it quite did in hindsight. It was still it took time to figure out, but I love it now. It's very fun. Mhm. Sure. Well, I'll answer that question in two parts. First, how to play it. Um, well, your right hand kind of goes in the bell and it helps with tuning, kind of a cup like that. For certain effects, you can close your hand fully, and that's what we call stopping. It gives it a very nasally sound. And then your left hand, Um, you press the valves with or the thumb trigger, and that's how. And then you blow into the mouthpiece. That's how you play it. And I think the sound it brings to the orchestra. Typically, we associate a very mellow, kind of almost melancholic sound with it. But it can have a wide variety of sounds from a dark low range to like a piercing heroic high range. It's quite versatile. I think it's definitely had a big influence. Like I mentioned earlier, some of my favorite composers are people who write very well for this instrument. Uh, and I tend to the horn is a very lyrical instrument. Like I think vocal melodies or the horn can almost like be a vocal instrument the way it sings through melodies. So I try and write melodically quite often. That's a good question. Yeah, definitely I do have a bit of preference for brass as a brass player. But as a composer who wants to get into more orchestral writing, you do have to kind of, or at least what I feel is that you kind of have to sometimes treat everyone in the ensemble fairly and just do what works, like that sort of thing. Mhm. Um, Possibly 1984 is a trio for clarinet, viola, and piano. Um, I think there could be some of that. Like I use the mellow clarinet for a more lush theme, and the harsh tones of the piano and violin for the party, that sort of thing, and different sorts of harmonies to convey like the love theme versus the party. Sure. Um, I started at Western in first year, and at that time, I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go in the stream. Um, I was thinking I'd signed up for the education class and the composition class as two electives, um, and I enjoyed the composition class, so I figured, okay, I'll do this and see where it goes. I actually ended up not taking the education class because turns out I was playing in the opera, so I dropped that class. Uh, it could be something interesting to go back and learn. The learning always helps, but yeah, I do enjoy performing as well. Yeah. Hmm. Um, I think uh, that yes, it is. I just as I got to learn more about different types of music and like I mentioned earlier, that sort of narrative program music. If I read a story I enjoy and can start to see or imagine potentially how music could uh, possibly tell that story, then that is something I can work with. Thank you. Mhm. Sure, yeah, that's a good question. And I think it depends on the piece first off. Like I worked with a singer this past year and collaborated with her to write a vocal piece, an aria for her. So that was one experience where we talked about her range and I wrote it specifically for her. And um, whereas some other times I will just kind of tinker on my piano and write down what I like. And um, whereas I guess in the more narrative sense, I will try and work on a theme for a certain character or place or feeling. Um, and then when I get that down, then you can use that in the piece and then vary it. Kind of like film music or something like that. Mhm. Sure. I guess so. Um, yeah, I think uh, well, I first off, I use a notation software, Dorico. I enjoy using it. Um, it's pretty good. It's got very good tools for. It's something called engraving, where you have to kind of make the sheet music look professional. It's very good for that. I can plug it into my electronic piano, so I can play the note on the piano, and then it'll show up on the screen, as opposed to like using a keyboard. Uh, a computer keyboard, not like piano keyboard, um, to input the notes. Sometimes I'll occasionally handwrite something, just sketch something out, and but then probably later I'll input it on Dorico. Um, Sorry, was there another part of your question? Yes. Like if you like make a mistake, but then it you end up enjoying it, sort of thing. I suppose there is that potential. I remember in my second year, I was working on an assignment, a composition one, and I was playing it on the piano and I hit the wrong notes in my right hand, and I was like, "Oh, I like that." So I ended up using it, even though it wasn't what I had originally written. So I think it could go either way because I was using a different notation software at that time as well. Um, it's something I haven't given it too much thought until recently. I've been exploring more film scores lately, like those of Gone with the Wind or Psycho, some classic Citizen Kane. I've been listening to parts of that. And I grew up with Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, classic John Williams scores, and Hans Zimmer is also very well known. Um, so I think as I start to approach the end of my undergrad degree, I can continue to see what's out there, and film scoring is definitely one option that I can potentially look into. Mhm. Um, yeah, I think there is. Um, in my limited experience as a student, I think there is still that area. Just yeah, composers write uh, works that could be commissioned by orchestras or for us at Western. Mm, Um, um, I think it. I believe it still happens. To what extent, I can't say. I um, I don't watch a ton of concerts, but I've seen some from the Toronto Symphony lately. When I watched one of their concerts, they had a commission, I believe. Okay, is that better? Okay, nice. Hmm. Sure. Yeah. Well, like you said, when I started the horn in grade nine, I didn't know right away it was going to be something that I'd pursue beyond high school, but um, I certainly was enjoying it. And same thing in grade 10. It wasn't really until grade 11 when I was like, okay, I want to start getting more serious about this. Um, I started taking private lessons outside of school and joined the local youth orchestra. And that was really when I was introduced to um, Western art classical music for the first time, uh, I kind of fell in love with it, enjoyed it, and decided that I wanted to pursue music beyond high school. Okay. Well, there are a number of things that drew me to Western. In grade 12, I actually participated in something called the WISE program, where I could play in an ensemble at Western and take lessons with a prof there for a credit. Um, so that would help make the transition easier. So I'd be familiar with the campus, know the prof, that sort of thing. And again, I'd have a credit already. Um, Western is also local for me, so I'd be able to save money on residence. And it has a reputable music program, great profs. So, um, I think it gives, well, it gives you a degree. A degree looks good on job applications um, for any sort of work. But in music in particular, uh, like there are certain composition memberships that can be found online. I've been investigating, and some of them. Um, we good? Or okay? Did you catch what I said? Or Mhm. So I think there are certain kind of organizations to help support composers online that you might need a bachelor of music and composition for. Maybe not a master's, but it's a good stepping stone in the right direction. Uh, yeah, sure. Do you mean like the coursework throughout the degree, or like a degree itself? Mhm. Um, well, definitely it's helped refine my technique, both as a player, horn player, and a composer. Um, like anything, the more you practice and work at it, it'll help you improve. Um, so that's one thing, and it's all something I can continue to work on. Mhm, mhm. Okay. I think just uh, don't be afraid to learn about a wide variety of different types of music. Listen to a wide variety, and put yourself out there as an artist, performer. Um, I guess that's what my advice would be. um, it's not super difficult. It's something I'm getting better at. Like I have experience with like public speaking in like high school. I was in some plays on stage with some lines, and I perform regularly on campus. But putting my music out there is something new, and it does take some getting used to, especially since you mentioned you don't want people stealing it. Uh, that's something that is important. Mhm. Um, well, I think like for anybody, the first time you do anything, it's going to be difficult, um, and then through trial and error and repetition, it gets easier. Um, well, I can't speak to anyone in the arts industry, but I can speak to my experience as a composition student. I think it's pretty important because, like you said, you can write something, but if you don't like make connections with people, which is also important, I believe, then you won't, or your works might not get performed as frequently. Um, but if you're willing to promote yourself, um, then there's a greater chance of performance and audiences hearing your music. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Thanks. See ya.